Some people don't disappear loudly. They don't argue, explain, or make dramatic exits. They simply stop reaching out, and psychology tells us this kind of silence is almost never accidental. It's not a switch that flips overnight, but a slow internal shift shaped by repeated experiences. When someone stops calling, texting, or checking in, it often reflects changes that have been happening quietly in their mind for a long time. One of the strongest reasons is effort imbalance. When one person is always the one initiating contact, the brain starts to recognize that the relationship is uneven. Humans are wired for fairness, even in emotional connections. At first, the imbalance might be ignored, justified, or brushed aside. But over time, initiating contact begins to feel less like connection and more like obligation. The brain associates effort without return as emotional labor, and eventually, silence becomes a way to restore balance and self-respect. Another powerful reason people stop reaching out is emotional self-protection. Repeated low-effort replies, delayed responses, or emotional indifference train the nervous system to anticipate disappointment. Psychology calls this protective withdrawal. Instead of repeatedly exposing itself to small emotional rejections, the mind adapts by pulling back. Silence becomes safer than hope. This doesn't mean the person has stopped caring. In many cases, it means they care too much, and the cost of caring has become emotionally exhausting. The brain's priority shifts from connection to protection, choosing distance to avoid further emotional strain. Sometimes, silence is not about retreat, but observation. People stop reaching out to see what happens when they are no longer the one holding the relationship together. Psychology explains this as information-seeking behavior. When someone steps back, they are unconsciously asking questions. Who notices my absence? Who checks in without being reminded? Who values me without constant effort on my part? This kind of silence isn't manipulation, it's clarity. Presence can mask indifference, but absence reveals truth. In this quiet space, people learn where they truly stand, and those realizations often determine whether they ever reach out again. Mental overload also plays a major role. When stress increases, the brain simplifies life to cope. Under cognitive and emotional pressure, the mind prioritizes survival, not social performance. Psychology shows that when people are overwhelmed, non-essential communication is often the first thing to disappear. It's not personal, it's neurological. Conversations require attention, empathy, and emotional energy, and when those resources are depleted, silence becomes a form of conservation. People stop reaching out not because they don't care, but because they don't have the capacity to care outwardly while managing internal pressure. As people grow, their sense of self-worth often changes the way they connect. When someone begins validating themselves internally, their need for constant reassurance from others decreases. Psychology shows that individuals with stronger internal self-worth don't chase attention or overextend emotionally. They no longer feel compelled to prove their value through constant availability. They stop reaching out not out of pride or punishment, but because they no longer need external confirmation to feel secure. Their silence reflects emotional maturity and self-respect, not indifference. Emotional detachment is another key factor, and it happens gradually. Detachment doesn't begin with silence. It begins with less sharing, less enthusiasm, and fewer expectations. People stop opening up, then stop initiating, and finally stop hoping. By the time silence becomes visible, the emotional separation has already taken place internally. Psychology explains that when expectations fade, motivation follows. The person isn't waiting anymore. They've already adjusted emotionally, even if the other side hasn't noticed yet. There's also a deeper layer many people miss. Sometimes, stopping outreach is a sign of emotional clarity. People realize they've been over-investing, over-giving, or over-functioning in relationships that don't reciprocate. The brain eventually recognizes this pattern and corrects it. Silence becomes an adjustment, not a punishment. It's the mind aligning behavior with reality. This shift can feel sudden to others, but internally, it's often the result of long reflection and emotional recalibration. Importantly, when someone stops reaching out, it doesn't always mean rejection. It doesn't always mean anger, and it doesn't always mean they've stopped caring. Sometimes it means they've stopped chasing. Sometimes it means they've chosen peace over confusion. Sometimes it means they've learned that silence can be more honest than words. Psychology reminds us that behavior is communication, and silence is often saying what words no longer can. Understanding this helps us respond with awareness rather than assumption. It encourages self-reflection instead of blame. Whether you are the one who stopped reaching out or the one noticing the silence, the psychology behind it reveals something deeper about boundaries, self-worth, emotional safety, and growth. Relationships don't only end with arguments. Many fade quietly when one person decides they no longer want to fight for balance alone. If this message made you reflect, if it helped you understand people, relationships, or even yourself a little more clearly, then you're exactly where you need to be. This is what we explore here on the Knownsense: human behavior, psychology, and the unspoken truths behind everyday actions. If you found value in this, support the channel by liking the video, sharing it with someone who might need this perspective, and subscribing to the Knownsense for more insights that help you think deeper, see clearer, and grow stronger.